Now I will tell you the story of an amazing guy named Eric. He has a son named Kyle, but this little boy is not an ordinary child. Kyle is special. It's a very interesting story, and I will tell it to you now. One ordinary day, while strolling through the streets of Avatar World, Eric decided to return home. Approaching a bus stop, he noticed a little boy. Looking around, Eric realized that there was no one else nearby and decided to wait, thinking that the child's parents might return. However, as it got darker with each passing minute, no one appeared. The little boy started crying, and Eric realized that he couldn't leave him alone. So they went home together, and Eric decided to name the child Kyle. Over time, Kyle grew up, and Eric noticed something strange behind his son's back, a small red tail. At that moment, Eric realized that Kyle was an extraordinary boy. As time went on, red wings started to grow on Kyle, and he began to resemble a marvelous creature. Eric felt fear and worried that people wouldn't accept his son, so he decided not to let him leave the house. However, on one fateful day, Kyle discovered his special ability and decided to explore his world. Kyle found himself in a park when he suddenly heard cries for help. Looking in the direction of the sound, he saw a young girl being chased by a ruthless maniac. The girl desperately tried to escape, but the maniac was relentless and merciless. The maniac noticed Kyle's approach and momentarily paused, stunned by Kyle's determination and strength. Frightened and overwhelmed, the maniac turned and ran away, not daring to cause any more harm. Kyle approached the girl and assured her that she was now safe. After this incident, the story of Kyle's heroism spread throughout the city. People learned about his courage and bravery, and their opinion of him completely changed. Kyle continued to help people, using his unique power and determination. His story became a legend in the city, reminding everyone that one person can change the course of events and bring light into darkness. With each passing day, Kyle became more famous and beloved in his world. People respected him and thanked him for his kind deeds. He became a symbol of hope and possibilities, showing others that everyone can find their place in the world, regardless of their differences. The story of Kyle and Eric has become an important lesson for everyone. Never be afraid to be yourself and embrace your unique qualities. Hello friends, today I'm going to tell you a very interesting story about a villain who was defeated, or almost succeeded. And so let's get started. This character's name is Jack, but more often he is called by the nickname Golem. All this is because of an incident that happened a couple of years ago. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about Jack so that you understand the horror of the whole story. Jack has been working in a furniture store for a very long time. He is the very first employee in this store and a very good friend of the store owner. Now I'll explain how this is related to his nickname. Jake loves cleanliness and order very much. Therefore, he often stayed at night in the store to put everything in its place and put things in order. Because of this, he returned home late at night. And then one day, when Jake was returning home, he heard a strange rustling on the other side of the street. Looking closer, he saw something, standing there in black rags and gray-white hair. Jake tried to run away, but his legs stopped moving. The creature began to approach Jake. Jake was very scared. It was a ghost. Jack stood there, paralyzed with fear, as the ghost slowly approached him. His heart was beating so hard that it seemed ready to jump out of his chest. He couldn't take his eyes off this terrible sight, which seemed to come out of his worst nightmares. The ghost was covered in dust and tattered scraps of cloth, its eyes glittering with an ominous light. As he got closer, Jack could see the look of anger and grief on his face at the same time. "Who are you and what do you need?" Jack said, trying to keep the tremor out of his voice. The ghost didn't answer, but his hands were reaching for Jack, as if he wanted to say or do something. Terrified, Jack closed his eyes and clutched a box of tools from the store. He couldn't even move to protect himself. The next moment, Jack felt the ghost touch his shoulder, but it wasn't the touch of an ice spirit. It was someone's hand, real and warm. Opening his eyes, Jack saw his friend and the owner of the store standing in front of him in complete disbelief. "What happened, Jake? Are you okay?" the owner asked. Jake looked around and realized that the ghost was gone. Everything was as it should be. A quiet street lit by lanterns and a furniture store quietly falling asleep to the sounds of the night. I do not know," he whispered, trying to figure out what had just happened. After this incident, Jake told his friend about what he had seen. The owner of the store convinced him that it was just a hallucination due to fatigue and strongly recommended that he no longer stay in the store until late. But Jack knew he had seen something real, and he decided to find out who or what it was and why it appeared to him that night. Jack was left stunned by the encounter with the ghost, but decided not to panic. Instead, he began to look for an explanation for what was happening. As a result, he came to the conclusion that it was a hallucination due to the fact that the store where he worked smelled very strongly of new paint from the walls that were painted in the morning. Because of this, he could get lightheaded and hallucinate. Since then, Jack has tried to get home early and no longer stay in the store until late. He realized that taking care of his health and well-being is the most important important thing. It was because of Jake's courage that he got the nickname Golem. Although the ghost may have remained a mystery, Jack decided to just accept what had happened as a strange coincidence and not think about it anymore. Now I will tell you a story about an unusual girl named Emma. She had always been afraid of paranormal phenomena, but she had a dream to overcome her fears. Now I will tell you this story. Emma spent most of her time at home and received information about the outside world only through the news. She enjoyed feeling safe and believed that no external problems could reach her. But one day, Emma realized that she could no longer hide. Her greatest fear was paranormal phenomena. She convinced herself that ghosts did not exist and decided to go outside to confront her fears. Everything started well. Beautiful weather, smiling people. Emma entered a clothing store to choose new jeans. She was already in the fitting room when she heard strange sounds from the entrance. Deciding to find out what was happening, she left the fitting room. Suddenly, an elderly person burst into the store, shouting that the dead had risen and now walked among the living, just like ordinary people. Shocked, Emma assumed that this person was simply insane. She bought her jeans and hurried home. As she walked through the park, she noticed that it was already dark and there was no one around. Her fear only intensified. However, as she approached her home, she noticed a guy. He had a strange gait, and upon closer inspection, she noticed that his skin had an unusual hue. The guy turned towards her, and it turned out that he was indeed a zombie. A loud scream escaped Emma's throat. Her biggest fear had come true, and she was defenseless. The zombie approached Emma, and she continued to cry. However, the zombie started making strange sounds, and Emma smelled the scent of damp earth, which she knew well because she loved planting flowers. The zombie laughed and spoke, "We are similar, Emma. I rarely leave my home too, but don't be afraid, I won't do anything to you. I'm not hungry." With her eyes closed, Emma heard the sound of receding footsteps. Opening her eyes, she saw the zombie moving away. She gathered all her strength and ran home. Emma immediately went to sleep and seemingly slept for over a day. The next day, someone knocked on Emma's door. Forgetting about the incident with the zombie, she decided to check who it was. It turned out to be the old man who had shouted about the zombie uprising. Despite her fears, Emma decided to let him in. The old man explained that he knew about Emma's encounter with the zombie, and now she understood that he wasn't crazy. With trepidation, Emma recalled the green monster and felt fear. Again, man told her that zombies come into the world of the living every 5 years, and she should remember that it's better not to go out on that day. After the old man's visit, he left. Emma realized that the only day she decided to leave her home turned out to be Zombie Day. Now she knew that paranormal phenomena existed, and her fears were not unfounded. However, she also realized that she had to become stronger and overcome her fears to live a fulfilling life. Since then, Emma began to explore paranormal phenomena and became more open to new adventures. She learned to control her fear and help others who encounter inexplicable situations. Her story became an inspiration for many, and she became known as a brave girl who overcame her fears and found strength within herself. Thus, Emma turned her fear into a source of strength and motivation, becoming a true hero capable of overcoming any obstacles in her path. Emma never saw the old man again and had no intention of leaving her house on the day of the zombie walk through the streets of Avatar World. She hoped that zombies couldn't enter other people's homes.